This is the site of Donnally's Fort, a Revolutionary War-era frontier stockade log fort located on the fringe of the mountainous Virginia frontier, located in the Greenbrier Valley. Built sometime between 1771 and 76, it was the site of what is perhaps the second largest and most significant Indian attack on the Virginia frontier in what is now modern-day West Virginia. Now located in Greenbrier County, West Virginia, in an area known as Raiders Valley. Here is a view of the actual site of Donnally's Fort as it appears today by drone. You will see a nearby historical marker off of Route 60 a few miles away, and it does tell you about the basic significance of the fort, though it doesn't really tell you where it is. But it was built by a wealthy local landowner, that's him, Andrew Donnally, circa 1771 or so. And here is the view approaching, I believe that's about heading north. And I'll show arrows in the footage where you can see exactly where the fort was located. The fort itself was basically a square stockade with two bastions. It was about 82 feet by 90 feet, and the bastions were about 10 feet each, and Donnally's log home was built into one of the remaining corners, itself forming a part of that wall. A nearby historical marker also notes that there were two border heroes, and these were the two men who were sent to warn Donnally's Fort of the war party that was headed up the Kanawha River towards the Greenbrier settlements the spring following the murder of Chief Cornstalk at the fort at Point Pleasant. And here we see the actual site, basically where the cows are, of where the fort was. It wasn't a large fort, but this is where the battle took place with what was basically an overwhelming force of Indians, but decent enough fortifications for the settlers to hold them off. But it was an interesting story that came out of the attack on Fort Donnally. If you look closely, you'll notice the cows rubbing on what's left of the 20th century monument put there by the Daughters of the American Revolution. Fortunately, I was at the site a few years ago when it was in a little better shape and was able to photograph what was left of it. But that marker was actually determined by archaeologists to be built into the foundation of the center double chimney of the log blockhouse at Donnally's Fort. So you're looking at the actual spot right there. Eyewitness John Stewart, founding father of Greenbrier County, tells us that he led the relief force towards Donnally's Fort, but it was too late. However, they did make it safely into the fort after the battle had already started, finding out that only 4 were killed in the initial attacks. Apparently, the Indians had laid down their firearms behind a nearby stable outside the fort and rushed the fort's door with tomahawks and war clubs, hacking at it, and it began to split. It was early in the morning when the attack began. Only 2 men were awake, one of Andrew Donnally's slaves, Dick Pointer, and one of the 2 border heroes from the historical marker, Philip Hammond. These 2 held the door shut, or attempted to, while the warriors hacked at it. Suddenly, they let the door fly open, and Dick Pointer let loose with what is described as a musket charged with swan shot, which was fired into the crowded group of attacking warriors. That did the trick, and they backed off. Later, a war club was collected outside the fort door, loaded with lead from the swan shot. The firing of the musket woke up the rest of the fort, and they scrambled to join up for the defense, which included, at one point, the Indians even attempting to dig under the fort walls and burn the fort, ultimately unsuccessfully. Afterwards, Stewart reported that they found 17 dead enemies outside the fort, including one so torn with what was presumably the swan shot that a man could have run his arm straight through him. Yet, he noted the warrior lived for another 8 days, lived for another day, making what was described as a lamentable cry. After dark, they dragged 8 of the slain warriors from outside the fort walls, the Indians did, the burial locations for which were apparently never found. Read the full story up on the website at scavengeology.com, the link for which I will include in the description. Thanks for watching.